my friends, and welcome back to Where Wendy Creates. Today we are looking at scraps and how to turn scraps into something very, very useful. But first we got to take all of this and turn it into these very small pieces. So let's have some fun, shall we? We are at the cutting table, and I have all of my scraps from the last week on the cutting board, and we are going to go ahead and take what pieces we can use in a scrappy quilt and set it aside, and take what pieces we don't want for a scrappy quilt and go ahead and trim them up into a much smaller piece, similar to these, so we can go ahead and use them on our next project. So I'm simply taking the larger strips and I am trimming them down into thin pieces. And then, thin pieces, sorry about that. And then we're just cutting them into smaller pieces than that. And throwing them into one pile, grabbing the next and doing the same. And we are continuing to lay together all of our thicker pieces, and then we're cutting them down into strips, and then we are going to be cutting those to bring them down into these tiny pieces. So my friends, what do you do with your fabric scraps? Well, as you just saw, we take these, we cut them up into smaller pieces, and this size works best for a snippet roll, or fringe on the side of my junk journals is what we're going to do today. But I did want to share with you 10 uses for scrap fabrics. Don't make me turn the page and show you the next 10. We'll do that in a future video, so hit subscribe down below, and that way you won't miss when I reveal number 11 through 20. And then in the future, we're going to do 21 through 30. Yes, but today we are doing number 3, snippet roll. So I'm very excited to bring this to you, snippet roll. All right, and hello, welcome back to Where Wendy Travels, Where Wendy Creates. Today we're working with scraps, as I've said a few times, but what I've done is I've taken my longest pieces of scraps and I've put them in one pile, and we're going to be, well, that's a little bit too thin there. We're going to be taking them and making a snippet roll. Now, you've seen snippet rolls that go on clothing. These are not those. These are snippet rolls that we're going to use in our junk journals. So we have pages that we've shown to you, and different signatures we've put together with pockets, pages, torn pages, book pages, mail, you name it. But today we're going to make snippet rolls so we can decorate those pages. So we are going to simply get to our sewing machine. We have it set on a zigzag stitch. I have it on a large length, and I have it on a width of a 3. You can have it on any width that you're comfortable with, but I have it on at least a 3 because there's a lot of different pieces of fabric that we're going to be hooking down. So we are going to take the end of our long piece of fabric. We're going to put it up near the foot. We're just going to grab some of these, and we can decide what colors we want with the scraps, and we can cover up words if we don't want to see the words, or leave the words show, like this, showing the colors that went with that quilt, and just go ahead and put them up here, and we're going to sew them down. So I'm going to start with a few, just locking in that stitch, and then we're going to keep putting different pieces of fabric this way and that way, thinner and thicker across that piece, and that's going to be decoration on some of our junk journal pages. So I'm excited to bring that, and I had a little bit of Christmas fabric in here from a Christmas quilt we just made, so those musical notes are really nice to see there too. And I'm doing this multicolor, but even though it's multicolor, it's kind of a muted multicolor. So we're just taking these and laying them across, and we are going to stitch them down. If they're too long, I can go ahead and cut them up, or we can trim them later. And I am just going to start sewing them down and adding more too. And then here quickly, I'm going to be able to show you when we've run out of this length what the product looks like before we trim it up to fit whatever page we want to put it on in our junk journal. And this is probably going down as about, I don't know, I would say I'm putting enough down to where it's maybe 6 layers, because you have the bottom layers and then crisscross of all of the top layers. And once again, I don't have my tweezers and I've run over a piece. We're just gonna pull that out there and keep going. So it's about 6 layers. I'm using my heavy duty Singer sewing machine. I could use any sewing machine, but again, I have the heavy duty out because I like to do most of my crafts with this machine, because I really don't want to mess up the head of the other machine by torquing, pulling, tugging, or doing anything like that to it. And again, it's no rhyme or reason, just whatever looks good to you. You're placing these fabrics up and on top of your roll, and you can see that they're holding together. They're turning into a nice little frou-frou there. I want the majority of these upright so I can see the beautiful colors. Every once in a while it is going to get stuck under the foot if you do too many very small pieces. So again, you can use your tweezers to help pull those out, or you saw me use my seam ripper. And again, this is also a textural thing. So it's not just color, it's texture. Because when I work with my junk journals, I like texture. So I want a lot of different feely frou-frou things there. Just like I'm doing my activity mats, I like texture. And this is one added texture that kind of makes chaos beautiful. And I've just run out of thread in the bobbin, so let me go ahead and put another thread there. And I think we're going to put in a blue thread. It's got a little bit more on it, so it should carry me through this project. Take off the other. And again, I am using for thread, I'm using the bobbins out of the long arm machine to reuse those, so I'm not pulling threads off or saving them until they're the right color. I'm using them up so that on my long arm, I always have empty spools to put the right color, because when you're making a quilt on the long arm, you're always using at least 2 bobbins, and it seems like on a twin size, I'm at least using 3, sometimes 4, depending upon how tight my stitches are. So you can imagine what we use on a tight stitch on a queen or king. Ooh, I like those colors together. Okay, and that ran through it. And I'm going to back stitch here a little bit because we did run out of thread, and I just want to doubly secure those pieces down. All right, feeling real good about that. Catch back up where I was. Threw on some more musical notes, some beiges, some blues, a little bit of mauve. Oh, even got some greens here. Oh, that's 2 pieces. I'm going to pull the same sizes apart so you can crisscross these pieces as you're putting them on to where they look beautiful. And again, I do these snippet rolls probably at least once a month, because I don't like throwing away my scraps. Now, the tiny pieces that I don't use, or the pieces that I cut off, I can actually take an old blade in my rotary cutter, run them over about 50 times, just having fun, getting rid of that angst or excitement, anxiety, whatever you have, and create very small pieces that I then throw in my paper recycle bin. I have a bin for that and a blender, and I pulverize those pieces of tiny cut threads, and I make paper. And we're going to have that tutorial coming up before too much longer here, because my container is full and I've started on another. So lots of great tutorials coming up, and I am going to be traveling as well. So in between some of these tutorials, you're going to get to see, I hope, beautiful footage of my journeys in my different places that I'm going to be traveling to. And I hope the purpose of that is that you write those ideas down, maybe put them in your junk journal as a bucket list item, and that way you know whether you want to go experience that same thing or maybe how you want to do it differently. But really it's to see everything that's available at those locations that I go to. Because again, life is fun when you fill it with a hobby and with activities. And that's what I think my my traveling, my junk journals, my quilts, everything does for me. Because I love to snuggle up with a great quilt right in my junk journals, and even throw some of those quilts in the car so I can get snugly anywhere I go, even sitting on top of a picnic table and writing in my journals. Okay, and we are about 2/3 done with this, so I'm going to try and throw on these pieces a little bit quicker because I just want to take it out of the sewing machine, let you see what it looks like. And again, if we took a lot more time and precision with this, it would be all that much more beautiful, because it might be a little more uniform than how I'm throwing it up here. But I wanted to show you that even the scrappiest of fabric pieces can really bring a lot of color and texture and beauty to your junk journals. And I'm doing about 1 inch to 2 inches at a time as I stitch them. And I hope that you will use your scraps as well and hit that subscribe button so you can tell me in the comments below how you use your scraps, and maybe you can guess at number 11 through 30 that I have written out. And if I haven't written them out, please, please, please let me know in the comments, because I would love to make that list of 30 up to 50. So tell me your thoughts, tell me what you do with your scraps to upcycle, recycle, reuse, and always keep having fun. Probably too many in that spot, but I'm loving it. Getting some more blues in there, different colors, different edges of the fabric. Edges of the fabric meaning the selvage, meaning the selvage. Some more blues, rip that apart, have little threads on the ends. Musical notes, love them. Okay, and we are finishing up this strip. And again, if you're not happy with it, you can always throw it right back under the sewing machine needle and add to it. Shake out all the excess pieces. And I want to bring this to you a little bit closer so you can see that. And again, how all of these are now connected to it. I'm going to give it a good shake, getting rid of all the pieces that are willing to fall out, and then I can trim it to whatever size I'm comfortable with, and I can put that in a junk journal. So I want you to see me do that as well. So let me bring this to you closer. Okay, so we are looking at my ribbons that I have just created. And again, I can trim this up, but I wanted you to see what I have done. And our next tutorial, my friends, is going to be putting this on the page edges so you can see what it looks like. Yay! All right. So this, my friends, is the beautiful snippet roll pieces that we have just created in today's tutorial. So excited. Welcome to Where Wendy Travels, Where Wendy Creates.